Hello everyone, this is Robert, and I'm going to be continuing some work on my LXmini project to kind of put it aside for a bit because the house wasn't ready, but we just got the painting done. Carpets are going in here in the next couple weeks, so we're going to need some speakers up in the cabin, so I want to get this project finished up. In the last video, I got the controller mostly done. I just had to wire it all up, so it is done and fully working. So now it's time to focus on the actual speakers. This is one of the bases to the speaker, and what we're going to do in this video is I'll show you how I made these legs, and then we're going to take the rest of them and actually finish them off with some of this new fancy 3M Cubitron sandpaper. So let's dive right into that. So if you're coming into this blind wondering what this project is, I have a link down below for the kind of introduction overview of this. But in short, I'm making a pair of LXmini speakers, which is a kit offered by Siegfried Linkwitz, and that's really what's going on here. We got a 3D printed base with some aluminum pieces. In the last video, I just kind of showed the design ideas from this. So let's take a closer look at this bottom so you can kind of see what's going on. This is carbon fiber nylon X 3D printed, and then we have a aluminum cover plate. I actually made one of these in a previous video, and then what we're going to kind of be covering in this video is the legs. These legs are aluminum, and I machined them, and I will show that here in a second. It's kind of a bit of a process to get those made, but what I want to do in this video is kind of finish this off so that we can move on to basically putting in the tube inside of here and then finishing off the head, and we will be fully done and have some usable speakers. So let's start off by showing you how I made these legs. Okay, so I didn't take any video footage of how I made these, but I took a bunch of pictures, so let me kind of explain the steps. So first we start with the raw stock, and I ordered these in kind of long lengths, cut them down on the bandsaw, and here you can see 6 of them with the holes already drilled in them. And to drill the holes, I just 3D printed this little jig because, you know, why not? Let's get fancy with it. And it holds my punch in the end of it, so I can just punch the hole location and bring it over to the drill press. Now, this was the very first step that I did because the next step is going to be add the radius to the front, and then I'm not going to be able to easily put it on the drill press because that front is going to be this curved radius and it's not going to, work as well. So I got that done, and now it's time to bring it over to the mill. So I ran all this on the Tormach, and I have the right edge kind of lined up with the back vice jaw, so I can just pop one out, put the next one in, rinse and repeat, and it's a nice repeatable process, which is nice. So all we're doing here is drilling one hole for the carpet spike. There's going to be a spike at the end of the foot, and then there's 2 mounting holes on the opposite end. So we're going to drill those 3 holes, and then we're going to add the radius to the front. And if you look closely, we're not doing the radius all the way down because that's where that angle is going to be cut on the opposite side on the top. So we don't need to cut this all the way down. We just need to cut it low enough. And if you look closely, you can see that I'm not running the whole length. I am just cutting off the radius, and that's it. It doesn't do any other side machining, because if I did that, it'd have to be placed a lot higher in the vise, blah, blah, blah. So that just kind of makes the fixturing a lot easier. Now, the next step was a little bit tricky to figure out because it's a lot of material removal if I'm just cutting that whole top section off, the big diagonal section on the top. So instead of just machining that off, I decided to cut this off on the bandsaw. So if you remember, in a previous video, I made a vertical table for my horizontal bandsaw, and this is why. So here you can see the jig that I set up for this. It's basically just the miter gauge that runs in that slot with a piece of wood attached to it, and then here we are using that back mounting hole to basically just screw in each one of these feet and cut off that slice. And then here's what it looks like when we have that slice cut off. It's kind of ugly, but it removes a lot of material relatively quickly. I learned like after the last one that my blade had a big chip in it and a lot of teeth were missing. So with a nice new blade, it would have worked a lot better. But now that we have that all done, now we can mount it back on the mill, use a fly cutter, and basically just clean this up to the final dimensions. And here you can see it mounted on there. How I got that angle is I 3D printed these little angle blocks that were exactly the angle that I needed, and they spanned perfectly inside the vise. They had a little end stop on the end, so I could put the piece in there, clamp it down, run the fly cutter, pop it out, put in the next one, and that was it. So it's a relatively simple part to make, or 6 parts to make. But there's just a lot of little setups involved and a lot of little 3D printed jigs. But after all that was done, I think the only thing left to do was to actually tap out the hole for the carpet spike. And that's it. So now that I have all 6 of these legs made, it's time to finish them. And there's a lot of different options. I could have done a powder coating or a paint, and that might have, worked out okay with the black on everything else. But because the top base driver, the mid base driver, has that aluminum look to it, I wanted to kind of match that and tie that in. So what I'm going to be doing is using a random orbit sander with this 3M Cubitron. I've never used this, but it's supposed to be like next level sandpaper. So I'm going to try that. And when you use the random orbit sander, it just kind of leaves this random pattern. It just kind of leaves like a bit of a soft satin finish. And then you can come back through with a Scotch-Brite pad and just kind of brush it. And if you want to kind of get a quick idea what it looks like, so on this, these are just 2 plain ones raw off the mill, and here is one that I did just kind of a quick sanding and brushing with. It just kind of has, a bit of a satin look to it, which is what I'm going for. I don't really want it to bring too much attention to itself. I don't want to be like, really rough, brushed look. I just kind of want it to be, soft and satin. And I think you can kind of see this on video. This one is just kind of raw. Both of those are, and then this one just kind of has that nice soft satin look. So that's what I'm going for. So yeah, let's get this set up and get this done. So here's what my sanding setup looks like. I've got my random orbit sander hooked into the end of my bench vise. I just have a couple pieces of shims in there just to hold it in place, tighten it down, and now I have a little sanding table to use. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this through all the grits. I'm going to start with 80, then 120, then 180, then 220, then 240, then 320. And it's really not that bad of a process. The 80 grit takes the longest, and I went through twice as many of the 80 grit sanding discs as I did all the others, because the 80 I spent maybe upwards of about 5 minutes per, and then on all the other grits it was maybe only about a minute just to kind of even them out. With aluminum, you want to get rid of all the scratches, all the scuffs, and kind of remove that first layer of mill scale and material off the top of, I know it's aluminum, but you get that first layer off of it, and then you can kind of just even out the finish from there. So the 80 grit takes quite some time, and it does go through quite a bit of paper, but once you're done with it, that's pretty easy, and then all the other grits are fairly straightforward. So how do you know when it's time to move on to the next grit? Well, it's pretty simple. As long as the finish is consistent, then you can move on to the next grit. And this is why the 80 grit takes so long, because that's the one that we're starting with, and we're removing all the scratches, all the machining marks, and everything on the surface and getting it nice and uniform and consistent. And then when it's consistent and you don't see anything other than the tight little swirls from the random orbit sander, you move on to the next grit. And that's why it takes about 5 minutes for the 80 grit and a lot less time for all the other subsequent grits, because all the other ones, you're basically just making those little swirls smaller and tighter, smaller and tighter, smaller and tighter. And then eventually when you get to the 320, it's very, very uniform and very small. I was really looking forward to using this Cubitron sandpaper, but I don't think I'm all that impressed. It didn't seem to last very long. I ended up with a big patch in the middle that had no grit left after maybe only like 2 parts in some cases. Like with the 80 grit, I'd only get through 2 of these, and the sandpaper was just done. And in a couple cases, I had the grit just kind of chipping off or flaking off, and that was in the later stages. There was no sharp edges or anything like that for it to get caught up on. So I don't know, maybe I got a bad batch, but I'm definitely not seeing the durability from it. As far as extracting the dust out of it, that was actually kind of nice. Usually the aluminum dust builds up quite a bit on these, and that's what makes you go through a lot of them, is not them wearing out, but just kind of the buildup of the aluminum dust. So that was at least nice, but this is definitely not my favorite solution for sanding aluminum. I'll have to keep looking for a better method. I think this whole process, start to finish, took maybe an hour, hour and a half for all of these. And there is one critical step that you need to do after you get these done, before we move on to the Scotch-Brite, which is kind of the nice finishing method, is to wash these. You do need to wash them before you do anything else, because there's a lot of dust and grit and stuff like that in the surface from all the sanding. And so I use Dawn dish soap, some warm water, and just kind of, gently rub them down and wash them, same way you'd wash anything else. And the Dawn dish soap kind of gets all that stuff out. It also gets all the oils out of your hands, any of that that's kind of embedded in the surface. All of that stuff will be gone, and then we can move on to the finishing with the Scotch-Brite pad. So I'm using just a standard green kitchen Scotch-Brite pad. I found that these work really well. There's other colors for metal, but I like the green. And I'm doing this on the workbench, but normally I would do this in my utility sink, and I'm doing all the others in the utility sink. I'm just kind of showing you the process here. It is best to use the Scotch-Brite wet. So I kind of add a little bit of Dawn dish soap, add a little bit of water to it, and then brush it. And you want to be kind of consistent here, brush it in one direction. And this will just kind of smooth the whole finish out, give it a nice satin finish, and it'll kind of remove all of those little swirl marks that you got from the random orbit sander. And it gives a really nice, uniform, finished look. And if you do this in the sink with water, with Dawn dish soap, it will be clean when you're done, and all the fingerprints and everything will be gone, and it'll be a nice finished part, ready for the last and final step. If you've ever messed with raw aluminum before, you know that it shows every little single fingerprint. Touching it right after you sand it, boom, there's a fingerprint. You can't really even sand that fingerprint out. So the last thing that we need to do is kind of quote unquote seal the surface. Now I've found using mineral oil or baby oil works, and you might have some of this laying around the house. I don't even own a baby, but I have some of this. So you just basically saturate it with some baby oil and wipe it off. Pretty much as simple as that. And that will give you a surface finish that will not just instantly pick up fingerprints. And fun fact, you can actually use the baby oil if there's already some fingerprints on there to kind of buff out some fingerprints if they get stuck on there. So I don't know, this is just a little thing that I've picked up over the years, and it seems to work out for me. And here is what the finished feet look like. It's always a little bit difficult to show up on camera, but yeah, this is how they look. Some of these still might have a little bit of oil left over on them, but as you can see, I'm kind of touching them, and it's not really leaving any marks, and if it does, I can just kind of rub it away. So that's the kind of finish that we ended up with. These will be perfectly fine. They're not, I could have spent a little bit more time on these, but these are going to be down on the floor. We're never really going to see them. So yeah, I think they turned out pretty good. And the thing that I can't really convey on camera is they feel really nice. They have a nice kind of soft satin feel to them, which is always good. There's no real sharp corners. One thing I mentioned is I didn't go through and chamfer any of these corners because I know I'd be going through this whole sanding process. So that kind of breaks that edge, and it's very soft. It's not too sharp to touch, but yeah, that's how they ended up. They look pretty good. So what's left on these speakers? Well, here is one of the upright tubes. The other one's finished. This one had a little bit of blemish, so I had to sand it down and repaint it, but this one's good to go. These are the upper sections that hold kind of the tweeter. It's technically a full range driver, but they hold the tweeter. These just need a little bit more sanding just to smooth out the finish, and 1 or 2 more coats, but we have the tweeter assembly that goes in them already done. You can see the little arms on there. That kind of goes in something like that. So that's kind of snazzy with the little radius at the end. So all that's left to do is finish off the paint on those, and then we can start the final assembly. I have the bases all ready to go. We can put the feet in there that we just made, attach this onto the end of the tube, attach the top section, and then attach the heads. Add the polyfill stuffing in the inside of this, wire it up, and we are good to start playing some music and being done with this project. So that's what's going to be in the next video, is the final assembly. And then after that, I might do some measurements and some testings in the space once we actually get them in the space, but that's further down the road. So be on the lookout for the final assembly of these. They should end up looking pretty cool. As always, thanks for watching. Check out the links down below for all the other details about this project. Thanks for watching. See you again.